And we're live. All right. Guys, thanks for tuning in today to the JPES Tutoring YouTube channel. I'm here with a couple of other fellow tutor friends. They have online tutoring businesses just like I do. And as you can see, they tutor different things than I do. Well, I offer math, but Clara Tong has upper level math, which she can share for a sec. And then we also have Darcy, who teaches reading, particularly to students and adults who might struggle with dyslexia. So I wanted to talk about, this is kind of a teaser for a future live I wanted to do to talk about issues with schools, because that's one of our favorite topics. We teach students who have either been to public school, private school, or homeschooled. That's just what's happened. We've all done at least one of these things. And so I do have a question. And actually, Claire, I'm going to ask it to you first. So you and I both went to public school. In fact, I even went to public university. So no private school experience as a student I've had. So I want you to tell me, what did you learn first in public school? Like, let's talk about the positives, because there's always a positive with all of this. What did you learn that has helped you, like now, for present day?
Um, Thanks for having me on, Jessica. Yeah, I went to all public school for elementary school, high school. I don't think universities here are private or public. I think they're all
Guys,
private or public. I don't know.
Different thing, right? Different thing.
Yeah. I never grew up thinking that there was anything wrong with a public school education. I think that my teachers taught me a lot in terms of how to read, write, do math, and how to study, and how to treat others.
It surprises me a little bit, because I feel like in this day and age, people are ready to complain about school. Like, school is such a touchy subject. Like, it's just one of those things that here, I'm in Zoom. It's one of those things that if you feel like you're lacking something now, or that life was any kind of struggle at all after school days, you tend to look back and think, well, when should I have learned this? Like, when I went to college or universities, a lot of people call it, there were some things that I just didn't know how to do. And I don't know if this was the same struggle with other people in my high school, but I didn't know how to use one of those jump drives, like a zip drive, because we had a public speaking class, and we had to create a PowerPoint. And then when the teacher called us up, like, hey, it's your turn, you have to speak and present. And we had to plug that little, I wish I had one with me, but you know what I'm talking about. I had to plug it into like the teacher's computer and have it pull up. And I had to recruit a little friend from the classroom and say, hey, can you go up there with me and just make sure I do it right? Because you have to plug it in, and then it pulls up like a pop-up on the teacher's computer, and then to access your slideshow, right? So it was a little bit, I thought everybody seemed to know what to do. And I mean, a lot of those kids went to public school as well. It's just that somehow something I missed. But as far as something good I learned, I think like dealing with different people is probably one of the best things. And that's not really academic, though. It's just something that you have a lot of great teachers there, but I find that there's just a lot of gaps that I felt like I wish I'd learned this in school, but I didn't. Darcy, tell me about something that you find that maybe you didn't learn when you were younger, but you're having to teach to students now, whether it be like common sense things or certain things with reading or stories. And think about it, like, what did you either miss out on that you want kids to learn now? Because you didn't do traditional public school, right?
No, I went to private school. I went to a Christian school. And I went all the way from first grade through college to a Christian school. I learned a lot of great things and had great friends, and it was a great experience. But what I learned after I took elementary education, and then I taught kindergarten for 5 years, and I really thought that I knew how to teach reading until my own kids had dyslexia. And I realized that I had no idea what to do. But I have found out that that is common, whether you have gone to a private, it's common that teachers don't know what to do about dyslexia. So whether you've gone to a private school or a public school in this country, teachers have not been taught how to effectively teach reading to kids that struggle. And there's a really interesting podcast on that that's out right now, and it's called Sold a Story by Emily Hanford. It's she works for APM Reports, and she has done I think it's a 5-part podcast that explains what has been happening in this country as far as reading, because there's a lot of people who are struggling, and the teachers really don't know how to help them.
It takes, I think, a lot of people, or the public schools, I don't know about private schools doing this, but a lot of them will offer like academic coaching. And so certain people will be sent to workshops in the county or in your school district, or sometimes they come to the teachers' meetings and say, hey, if you have students with dyslexia who deal with it, who struggle with it, who somehow need to use it to their advantage, here's how you can teach them to read with that. Here's how you can coach them through it. And yeah, I don't know. I never had that training as a teacher at all. And it's true. It's kind of like, even as professional people, there are things that you just don't know if you haven't had that experience. So you never had to deal with it as personally, right? But
well, yeah. When I finally figured out that my daughter had dyslexia, I was really mad that I hadn't been. I thought, how come I have a degree in elementary education and I don't know about this? And then I started realizing that that's just the common thing. That's, I'm not the only one. And so now I realize that most people that specialize in dyslexia, well, I don't know if it's most, but I think it is most that specialize in dyslexia have kids that have dyslexia.
It's so personal, I think, because why else really? Like, a lot of people have a passion for something. It's because they've either seen something or they've dealt with it. So they think, okay, I've got to do this. Like, I loved reading and writing growing up. So I thought, I think other people can learn from me because I actually like this stuff. I understand a whole lot about it. I can convey that message. But you're dealing with something that's really like an actual problem where people are at a loss, where, oh, geez, no one in the family is dyslexic, or there are a lot of improper ways to deal with it. So you now know how, because you have that wonderful personal experience of, my own daughter had this. Was it one daughter or both?
I just have one daughter, and then my son also. He struggled too, but not as much with reading as my daughter did. And she was first, and I think by the time he came along, I sort of knew more what to do about it.
Yeah. Being the first child, sometimes you're the guinea pig. I was the first child, so sometimes it's like extra caution, or sometimes like just a lack of experience. It happens. Oh, Linda's here to say hi, everyone. So the next thing is going to tie into this is, because we do what we do, because we get to, oh, very interesting. We've all been to something different. Okay, so Linda went to Catholic school. So, and they're everywhere, aren't they? Not as really as common in the places I've lived, but it's just like the school environment is responsible for so much. So as private online tutors, you have this freedom to not be under the jurisdiction of what the principal tells you to do, what the other teachers are pressuring you to do, what the state, whatever. So the thing is, I have students coming to me who none of them are the same ever. It surprises me sometimes what they do know, what they've learned, and what they don't know. So how do you guys, and either of you can jump in, how did I write this down? I promise I wrote this down. So as an online tutor, how are you able to fill in any kind of gap that the school has? Schools may not have a dyslexic program. Schools may not have enough support with math. That's certainly the case. So how do you guys make it better for the students you have?
It really depends on what they come in for. Sometimes they want to get through the courses that they have without dealing with their gaps too much. Some people can kind of like power their way through. The word isn't power their way through. They just kind of like plow through it with lots of studying and grit. And
Mhm.
some of them really do need to go back to the basics to learn what they missed out on. And that really helps if they have summers off where we can fill in these gaps.
I'm typing this up here right now. So you talked about the students who like really just put forth all of that effort. Like, how does that look for you? Because when my husband is working for us and he has math students, it's like two different types. The first kind is they really just are lost. They need extra practice. They need someone like him who's patient. And then he kind of reteaches or helps teach things that they just missed out on in the classroom because they're just distracted or it moves too fast for them. And then the other one is students who want to get ahead and they do all the homework, they do the extra practice problems he assigns. So, like, what have you found is really, have you seen that same thing?
Yeah, I have students who want to get ahead, and I have students who really need to catch up. Um, what was the original question? Sorry.
I guess, like, with you, what is it that you're like, what's the most benefit you give? Because are you a tutor who helps students get ahead? Because maybe there are kids out there who want, hey, I want to go ahead and level up my math. Or do you think, no, I'm usually the tutor who's helping people that are in a really tough math class who just need more coaching?
I have both.
Do you have a preference as to which one you have?
I really like the ones where initially they're struggling and they're behind, but they're not in a place where they need to, like, they're not in a place where they're being graded harshly.
Mm-hmm.
So they have time to catch up, and then watching them go from being that student who feels like they didn't know very much to being the person who's very confident in what they're doing. That's a really satisfying feeling.
I love that. Then you really see how you've helped them
Mm-hmm.
because when you maybe before you don't always really know. You just know it's better that they have you to come to. Um, Darcy, who's someone lately that you've helped? And I know I've asked this before in other lives, but it's what we do every week. What what have you done that I don't want to brag, but without Miss Darcy here, this person would have struggled more or they would have missed out on something.
Yeah. Well, let's see. I mean, it is fun to have the different students to watch them, progress. And sometimes students come and they really don't know how to read, and they're trying to please you by reading all the stuff that they're guessing, or they're trying to sound stuff out and they really can't. And so we just go back to the beginning and fill in all those gaps and learn everything, and also work on some speech issues sometimes, because a lot of times the students don't realize, like for instance, they'll be saying instead of, yeah, they'll be making the F sound instead of TH. And I have to point out that, hey, when you see those two letters together, they only make one sound, and you need to stick your tongue out. So we practice sticking our tongue out to make that sound. And I have a student that recently was telling me, I'm getting better at sticking my tongue out and making those sounds. And it's just fun to watch those things, watch them improve.
So you think parents can't always do that?
And
They wouldn't know how to tell them, do this with your mouth to make that proper sound.
yes, and a lot of times they don't notice it because they can understand what their kid is saying, and they don't realize that they're saying, I'm thirsty instead of I'm thirsty. And then they just don't notice that. And then I don't know.
Yeah,
And the kid
blindness I love,
doesn't.
maybe.
Yeah.
Because once you get used to, I guess it's just like you can't always teach your own family member something that's important. I mean, that's why parents can hire us to fill in those issues that a school can't do, and it's okay as a parent to not know how to do something. Like there's no way. Like I've got friends who are parents now, and I know that they tell me I'm just figuring it out. I'm not sure. I'm this and that. So they work hard to try to they don't even know yet what their children are going to need, like when they're really young. And then the reading thing is like, it's either this wonderful goal and they like it takes off, or it seems like a lot of people struggle. Here Linda's saying, with reading in the 1990s, which we all lived through, the school system stopped teaching phonics for a decade. We know that these learners now have a gap with decoding words, so we generally start there. Real quick, just so anyone watching might need to hear, what is decoding words? What does that mean?
That it's like sounding out words, and you have to know what sound each letter makes, and then you have to make those sounds in order to make the word. And you can't just, showing flashcards and the kid sees the word on the flashcard, it's the and the, whatever. That is really not a good way to learn any words. Not even.
I'm sure I learned that way.
And we need to learn to decode. We need to learn what each letter, what sounds each letter makes, and decode it. And then our brain gets better and better at decoding until we automatically will notice. As soon as we see the word, we'll automatically read it. But that doesn't happen until you've learned to decode it.
Gosh, yeah. I mean, I'm sure I did a lot of memorizing as a kid because I liked reading, but I don't remember like much about phonics. Like she's saying here, any sort of phonetic meaning, any of that. I don't know, because that's why I don't teach younger readers, so that's why I always ask you guys, how does it work? How does it work with them? Because I have to refer people out to elementary teachers. Like when they say, "Oh, do you teach younger elementary?" I'll say, no, because clearly that's like a whole nother, like teaching students to read it's a necessity, but there are certain people like you who know how to do that and are able to break it down really well. I'm already ready. They come to me knowing how to read, but not necessarily, they're not always comprehending, or it's just upper level, or they're missing out on things because it's now much harder than reading Amelia Bedelia, or even like upper level, like what is that, Beverly Cleary. I want to talk more about this next time because I know we're running a bit low on time. We've got a couple minutes left. So one thing I wanted us all to say, what are some things that we wish we had been taught as younger people, like learned in school, learned wherever, and we didn't do that at all, and we had to learn it as an adult. And there's nothing wrong with it. Even people learn how to be better readers as adults, or better at math as adults. But what's something you think, gosh, I didn't learn this very well as a kid, so as a tutor, I make sure I tell students about this information?
It's so hard to talk about that because times change. Whatever we were taught in the 90s and the early 2000s, that is what educators thought was important back then. But what's important now is different. So, of course, you have to learn things as an adult.
Yeah, that is important. Like I would have said technology skills, computer skills, more practical, like how to build things. But some of this stuff I'm doing now wasn't invented then. Right?
That's exactly.
One thing, I've asked this before on JPES Tutoring Instagram, and people are like, taxes. That thing hasn't gone away. It also hasn't really updated. So there's something.
But try to teach taxes to a 15-year-old. We have it in our curriculum, but it doesn't mean anything to them because you don't need to do taxes when you're 15.
All kinds of financial stuff, I think, is, probably could be taught more to kids.
Actually, it goes over their heads.
Here's another thing here's something that recently I started doing I'm reading with one of my older students. This is an older student. She's in high school, but we're reading The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens.
Good.
And I think that just is full of, life skills, how to act or how to live. I don't know. And I never, Stacy that sometimes meets with us, she was talking about, why don't we read these books with kids? And that's what gave me the idea. I didn't read stuff like that. I only read storybooks and who knows, maybe like Clara's
Fiction.
saying, maybe I would have been like, yeah, I'm not interested in that. I just want to read stories, novels and whatever.
Okay, so it's hard to say, right? Because we probably love learning now more than we used to. Back then it was like, well, I get the reward for doing this, which is a grade, which hopefully we want the highest grade because it generates the most benefit for our ego and for other reasons. But yeah, I think this is something, if it sounds like we're interested in this topic, which I want to do next time. Clara, this one's for you. Linda wishes she had learned more math, like the why. Why are we doing this? Like, instead of, we did a lot of just the formula and all that. I enjoy it now, having a business and being able to say, here's how would I break this down? If you have this much money, here's what you can spend, or here's, if I'm trying to add up an amount of things, those real world, making it more real world is what I think would have been better, but that it's just not how it was displayed. So I guess that'll be my last thing before we sign off. Clara, are you able to show your students any real world mathematical applications, or do you find that even still it's like hard to do that?
So with math education, I was reading a book recently called A Mind for Numbers, and they talked a little bit about math education. And it goes that math purists always want to teach math very theoretically with just symbols and no real world application, because that's math in its purest form. And you can apply it to a very large variety of situations. But when students are learning it, they always want to know what are the practical applications that they can use in their life. So they want math for business, they want math for cooking, they want math for whatever it is they're going to do. So these two different ways of teaching math are at odds with each other. And yeah, so I think teachers they're always trying to balance it, but it never quite, it's very hard to get it right. And that's why you have all these people going, well, when am I ever going to use this in real life?
Oh, yeah, that's an awful thing to hear. That was what, I don't know what it's like being a private school student today, but hearing that phrase, I'm never going to use this again. Why are we doing this? What is the point? I would hear that over and over again, and I couldn't really disagree. It sounded really negative and cynical, but if teachers aren't able to, or if the curriculum's not able to make something, what is the word, like, not tangible, but if we can't,
applicable.
Yeah, that word, applicable. If I can't use this for anything, why in the world am I spending my precious time here? And which is another thing. Next time when we talk about public school, we're talking about how our time is used. And I never want to, blame teachers for teaching this wrong, or not using the time wisely, or not being able to create better math problems to help kids learn better. It's not always, it's just kind of the system itself that's at fault and creates more problems. And I think we love being able to do what we do, but probably we all agree that we wish education was better in the US. And I don't think it's perfect anywhere. However, I would never say this one place is so great and we stink. It's not really that way at all. I'm going to end this live today because I have another meeting coming up. But if you guys enjoy this, also, if you're a tutor or a parent watching this, please make sure to like it, and you can share it, subscribe, and comment to these things, because I like doing this type of thing, because I think this is the real world we're living in. And we love helping students become more educated and just better overall. So thanks for watching. Guys, thanks for coming. I'm going to end our broadcast now. Bye, everybody.